Nested if construct. If an if statement is followed by another one or more if statements, then such a if statement is called a nested if statement. The best way to understand this definition is first take a look at an example and then look at the dry syntax or the structure of the nested if statement. So in order to take a look at that, let us try to solve a problem of finding the largest of three numbers using the nested if structure. So if I have to solve that problem of finding the largest of three numbers, let me declare three variables called as a, b and c. So user can enter any of these set of values or any values he or she decides into a, b and c. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm asking the user enter the values of a, b and c. So here using cin, the user is going to enter into a, b and c at the same time. For the first time, let us assume the value of a is 1, b is 2 and c is 3. Okay, so a is 1, b is 2 and c is 3. Just to see that you don't get lost, I'm going to hide this. It is 1, 2 and 3. Now using nested if, I shall show you how you calculate the largest of three numbers. Now if a greater than b is 1 greater than 2, it is false. So it will not execute the next one, which happens to be a if. It will come to the this else. I'll tell you why this else. Now you need to understand before I explain. This else is associated with the closest if. Which is the closest if? It is this fellow. Finally, since this if and this else are joined, this else must be joined with this if. Similarly, this else is joined with the closest if. In the nested if construct, you have to always know that the else is associated or linked with the closest if. Which is the closest if to this else? This fellow. Which is the closest else to this if? It is this fellow. Now finally, since this is taken care of, this is taken care of, this fellow is associated with this else. So here, since a is not greater than b, this condition fails and I directly come here. Now if 2 is greater than 3 is again false, but since I am coming to the else if part, if this is false, I automatically come to this part. Here it automatically says c is the largest. In this case, c, which happens to be 3, is the largest, which is correct. Let's take a different input now. A is 3, b is 1, c is 2. 3 is greater than 1, it is true. Now is 3, if this is true, only I am doing this. Is 3 greater than c, which is true? Is true. A is the largest. Once it does this, it will not execute any of this. See, either this group is executed or this group is executed. Both of them are never executed. If this is true, then it will check for this. Okay, if this is true and if this is false, it will execute the else part. All right, so now let's take one more number to understand. A is 2, b is 3, c is 1. 2 is greater than 3 is false. So this if is false, I need to come to this else. Is b greater than c? 3 is greater than 1? True. So b is the largest. This way you can put different combinations of a, b, c and run through this and you will understand what is a nested if. The only way you're going to understand it is taking sample data and trying to understand it. Let me make it very clear. This block, if I hide it here, is all the first if block. This is the else part. Now this else is associated with this if, this else is associated with this if, this else is automatically left with this fellow. If this fellow is true, this particular part will be executed, either this fellow or this fellow. If this fellow is false, it will come here and execute either this fellow or this fellow. So this should have given you an idea of what is a nested if statement. Now let's get into the theoretical part. So the structure of a nested if is going to look something like this. So here if condition 1 is a greater than b, if condition 2 a greater than c, So I have one statement here. In the else part, I have C is the largest. Now, if this fails, I have this else part here. If condition 3, which is B greater than C, statement 3 here is B is the largest. Else statement 4, C is the largest. So you can map this fellow with this fellow, and then you can understand that this is the syntax of a nested if statement. So you may be asked in an exam, give the syntax of a nested if construct. So be sure you are able to do this or draw it, the ones given in your notes or in the programming constructs. So I hope with this you are clear as to what is a nested if. It is useful in certain situations as I've shown you in this particular problem.